Hi YouTube, BB here. Just a little quick chit chat about season 3 that I just finished of Code Black. It sucked! And the ending was garbage! Hot garbage. It took the soap opera cliffhangers, social drama cliffhangers with no true resolve from Grey's Anatomy. It took some of the shock value, random episode scenes from ER and 911, and it made it into a hot fucking mess of just pure non-reality TV show garbage for a medical drama that was supposed to be a medical drama, but instead made it just this really bad garbage. Really bad shit show. At the very end, and yes, people, this is a spoiler of a show from 2015 to 2018, so if you haven't watched it yet, too bad. I'm telling you what happens anyways in the final fucking episode of the series. In season 2, this blonde Ariel girl shows up. Both her parents are killed in a car crash, and she ends up in foster care and takes a liking to Dr. Rorsch, played by Marcia Gay Harden. And Marcia Gay Harden takes a liking to her and just kind of takes her under her wing and supervises her. And then the girl runs away from her aunt's house and foster care and ends up with Dr. Rorsch, and Dr. Rorsch applies to be a foster parent, and it kind of works out, kind of doesn't. So at the end of season 3, somehow something happens. She feels like her whole life is falling apart, and this Ariel suddenly goes from 13 years old in season 2. Forgive me, that's just the plants watering themselves, not actual crying, because, yes, I'm hyped up, but that's just my plants watering themselves. It's just something I was born with. So Ariel goes from 13 years old and her parents die in a car. Both of them are killed in a car crash in season 2. And then at the end of season 3, she's aged up randomly in the script to 16 years old. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense! And apparently I was wrong about this show. It was on CBS, not Fox. Which would explain the casting choices they made, especially for Dr. Angus Latham. He has that CBS face, not the very homely face. I was telling my husband, ABC has the actors get a lot of Botox and facelift surgeries. Fox has similar types of actors, but who are like conveniently sexy or conveniently hot and good looking. And then NBC tends to get a lot of actors who are boomers or older Gen Xers who are just like showing their age in their faces. They still get Botox, but you can see the age is definitely showing itself. And they also tend to have kind of not old-timey scripts, but just these weird scripts that scream out conservative boomers. And you gotta end up having older Gen Xers to agree with those concepts in their TV show character scripts. CBS has the people who are conveniently good-looking, but are also very passable for average, everyday, run-of-the-mill people. And that's what you get with Code Black. You get a lot of average to good looking run-of-the-mill people. You also get some people that aren't all that great looking, but they're still good looking enough to get a credited role on a TV show. Just good enough. Yes, I know I have a mark on my forehead. I don't know what from. Oh, yes I do. I bumped my head on the freezer earlier today or last night. I don't remember. Anyways, so on Code Black, that's the issue. It's the CBS factor of casting normal to conveniently good-looking people. It's very obvious, especially with, like I said, Dr. Latham. Good-looking, homely, average looking, looks like the guy who lives in the same apartment complex as you, or takes the same public transit as you, or you just walk past on the same intersection or the same crosswalk on a daily basis as you, and you're like, I see that person every day when I go through that crosswalk. Yeah. He's that guy. He's just your everyday Joe. Your everyday Joe Schmo. I don't even know who the actor is who plays him, but whoever played Dr. Angus Latham in Code Black, props to you, man. You're a good actor. Good actor. So, anyways, back to the show. Ariel ends up being this. She loses some short-term lived season 3 only boyfriend to cancer, and his cancer story was pure garbage. He didn't even lose his hair. He didn't look sickly. He didn't look gaunt. He didn't look like he was losing any weight. He didn't lose any weight in space. They cut his hair just a little bit around the edges. They trimmed the length of his hair for some of the scenes. But it just didn't look like he was so sick with cancer. It didn't scream out, pity me, pity me. I'm a sick 15-year-old boy with cancer. And I'm only here in this role because I'm the boyfriend of the teenage girl actor on the show. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then he died, and then the girl loses all sense of emotions, and no one wants her to be sad, and no one's giving her the time to grieve, and then she just runs away to join some random girl she met in foster care 6 months earlier. Oh, you know what else I didn't like about this show? This Ariel, who went from 13 in season 2 to 16 in season 3, she didn't really go to high school or middle school. Instead, she worked the same hours as working class 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-something-year-old adults as a candy striper. I don't think hospitals have candy stripers. I haven't been in a hospital in a long time, but I think that's such an old 80s, 90s stereotype trope. Candy stripers? And she was 13 and being a candy striper to play card games and bring up food trays from the cafeteria to patients in the ER. In California, the legal working age is 14, which I think is way too young. I'm in Washington State and it's 16 here. But even then, that seems kind of weird. Just bad writing. And only, once ever in the entire time this teenager was playing a teenager, she was seen doing homework or reading some school books or something in one scene. And then she was rudely interrupted for, a dramatic scene. That was it. It didn't make sense. Not once did she ever get picked up from high school or was told, you know what? You shouldn't be working so many full-time shifts here. You should go back to high school during the day and only come here one afternoon a week after school, and then you come back here on the weekends. And then the other 4 days of the week, 4 or 5 days of the week, you're doing community service somewhere, or you're in an after-school activity program, interacting and supervising activities with 6 and 7-year-olds. I don't know. It just seemed kind of whack. And at the very end, Dr. Warsh, Marcia Gay Harden's character, got like the green light to petition adoption of Ariel. And just as soon as she was about to tell Ariel the good news, Ariel's cell phone was in her bedroom, but all her clothes were gone. She ran away. And eventually, she was found, but she kind of found herself. Calling 911 for some teenage girl she met in foster care for a couple of weeks. Thinking, oh, I want to be just like her. She's my mentor because she doesn't go to school. And she hangs out with criminals. And she does graffiti. And she does huffing of butane. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's totally your mentor when you're a teenager. Totally. Like, all the people who become, all the grown-ass adults who become your friends, and your surrogate family in a hospital where you're working as full-time as an adult is, even though you don't have to pay the rent. You don't have bills to pay. But we're not going to show you actually being a high school teenager. No. We're going to show you being a teenager working as many hours as adults. No, those people aren't your family. Some girl you haven't seen in over 6 months, you only knew for 2 weeks, is your family. So she was like squatting in an abandoned house with this teenage girl named Joy, who honestly had nothing joyful about her personality. The little that we saw, and some stupid teenage boys, and they were just graffitiing everything and smashing things and making holes in walls and just being total assholes to the house they broke into. And Joy, and then they were taking turns huffing paint, drinking from a bottle of whiskey, huffing paint, huffing butane, drinking more whiskey, snorting cocaine or white powder that you have in TV shows. Come on. That's just terrible. And also in the final episode, you know what there was? A random Cessna plane crash that nobody saw coming into the side of a hospital building, and it only damaged one floor. And it just had like a smooth landing in one floor, like a big giant lobby. Or a foyer of one floor. And only maybe like 20 people were hurt and 10 people were killed. And no big deal there. It's just, everyone evacuate the entire hospital scene montage, kind of, with silly, bad orchestra music on in the background. And then Ariel shows up with this non-joyful joy girl with the ODing on huffing butane, and Joy had a cell phone. And she used Joy's cell phone, and then all the teenage boys were like, we'll get arrested. We'll get in trouble. Well, if I leave too, then Joy dies, said Ariel to the stupid teenage boys, and the teenage boys ran away anyways. So they get to the hospital, an ambulance comes, and they get to the hospital. That's the next scene. They're just arriving in this ambulance, getting to the hospital. And Marcia Gay Harden is like, Ariel, you came back! Well, no, my friend OD'd. Okay, we'll talk about it later. But you stay here because she needs a friend to see when she wakes up. Even though Ariel was already talking about leaving and not wanting to stay and not wanting to be there and thinking that she didn't belong there and thinking she didn't have a family there. Like, how do teenagers get into this mindset where they've suddenly found themselves appreciated by people, and then they just delude themselves into thinking, I'm going to go hang out with someone I only knew for 2 weeks, instead of staying with the people who I've known for 6 months. And this person's a terrible influence on me and a terrible example and can't provide me anything safe. And I'm going to leave the safety to go hang out with someone dangerous. Dear teenagers, don't do that. That's bad. If you're not hearing the words dangerous multiple times, well, you're just a fucking idiot. And earlier in season 2, Ariel was like left orphaned by her parents who died in a car crash, and foster care was going to put her with some aunt she barely knew. And then she kept on trying to tell this 13-year-old girl named Ariel, 13, was like, oh, I know this guy in Oregon. I can go stay with him. And I said this in my previous rant about this. Girl, you're 13. You don't know anyone in Oregon. You're in chat rooms or just texting people on social media on your phone. They say they're from Oregon. They could be from fucking India. They could be from Nigeria. They could be from Australia. They could be from Canada. They could be from New York City. They could be from North Dakota in a farm town. Or they could be from the place they say they're from, but they're not the age they say they are. You can lie about anything you want on the internet and get other people to believe you because there's no reason for them not to if they're stupid enough, like a teenager. Dear teenagers, don't believe everything everyone tells you on the internet, especially, oh, I know this guy in Oregon. I could go stay with him. I don't want to be in foster care. I don't want to live with some aunt who I don't even know. No, I want to go live with some stranger I've never met before. Except on social media. No, you know what they're going to do? They're going to rape you, and then they're going to murder you, and then they're going to bury you in the woods and tell nobody. And then you're going to be gone forever, and no one will remember you. And that's not a life to live at all. It's not. So, a plane crash, a defiant teenage girl gets all defiant for no reason, and then she comes back, and then some random police guys come immediately and wanting to arrest her, and then there's just a little bit of a jolt/shake to the hospital set building. And it's that little Cessna plane that crashed, or some kind of private charter, I don't know, in a single floor, not destroying an entire section, not destroying the helicopter pad, not destroying the parking lot and 5,000 cars. No. It just went right through the window. No big deal. Couple of people dead, the pilot dead, some fires going on, hospital being evacuated, but no big deal. It just flew and made a perfect landing in the widest part of an open second or third floor. No big deal. And then you have this teenage girl who acts like, she wants to not be anywhere safe at all. And then there's the final courtroom scene where, it's just like everyone from the hospital shows up in favor of Dr. Worsh, Marcia Gay Harden's character, getting custody, permanent adoption of this teenage girl who doesn't even know what's good for her. But you know what? The judge made one good point. That she was in an ER way too often, not as a patient, but working, and that it wasn't considered a safe environment. Like, why wasn't this girl in high school? Why wasn't this girl in middle school? Why wasn't this girl in a boys and girls club, a YMCA, some kind of supervised after-school program? I don't know. Why was she dressing up in a candy stripe or pink and white striped dress, jumper suit dress, babysitting and playing card games and bringing food orders to patients in an ER, and then doing CPR on them and doing medical things on them with no medical training? Come on. You can't train a 13-year-old to be a CNA. You can't. Seriously. And then, and suddenly somehow she went from 13 in season 2 to 16 in season 3, and the judge pointed that out, that I allow 16-year-olds to have a voice in my courtroom. And then they were granted custody of each other. happy ending. And then, Rob Lowe made out finally with his female sexy paramedic counterpart. And he was still seeing his dead brother with the army PTSD in the distance. Code Black. Code Black, you were just a weird ass show. You were great for the first season, Code Black. But season 2 was full of cliffhangers that were unnecessary and unresolved storylines. And season 2 also had a lot of extra side characters who made 1 or 2 extra appearances, but not really anything of importance. And then season 3 just was bad soap opera, bad drama acting, bad go in the field, go leave the ER where you're insured to work with doctors, healthcare insurance for performing medical procedures, insured and licensed by that hospital, to suddenly going to work out in a 500 vehicle pileup car crash. It doesn't make sense. And then to go work out in the field at a little plane crash, and then go work out in real life at some random place, and then at some other random place, and then you get a fake call to a mini mart as a paramedic. No one's sick, no one's hurt. You're on the cell phone with someone from the ER when you get into the ambulance, and then you say goodbye, and then suddenly there's a gun pointed at your head by some guy who broke into your ambulance. Why did you lock your ambulance doors when getting out in the first place? See, it doesn't make sense. And then he held the gun to them and told them to drive and gave them an address, and it was like some dumpy ass little shack. Not an apartment, just some dumpy ass little shack where this tweaker had his girlfriend who was pregnant and had a bullet wound because they went to go shoot up some pot dispensary to get more weed. Yeah, I don't think you were high on weed, man. You were high like on crack and PCP and dangerous methamphetamines in that behavior. That's not needing weed to the point that you're gonna hold up and shoot up a pot dispensary. Oh my god, no. No, no, no. And then you end up kind of tricking one of your own doctors on the phone who called you to drive to that shack's address to bring medical supplies because the tweaker won't give in to realizing, yeah, you aren't surgeons, but you're right, we need to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't want to. He knew he was a criminal, but he was too far tweaked out to care that his pregnant, shot up girlfriend was bleeding to death. And they couldn't just do a C-section right there in his shack, or give her a blood transfusion in his shack, but they try to do it all anyways, and take the bullet out, and give her a breathing tube into her lungs from outside of her body, and just so much nonsense. And eventually, their friend came from the ER, and instead of leaving, the guy with the gun would open the door and just, pull the guy in, and then eventually they managed to trick him and trip him up, and they managed to call 911 for real to get another ambulance to come pick them up and arrest the tweaker loser. And see, none of it made any sense. None of it made sense. This is a long video. I know that. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, needless to say, Code Black Season 3 was a disappointment. Just like my ugly face. And at this point in the video, I'm probably the only one watching it at the 25-minute mark. Oh well. That's what it is. Code Black Season 3 disappointment. I'm glad it got canceled or it didn't continue. I'm glad. And yes, that was a spoiler, but it was an old show. It's not a relevant show anymore. There you go. That's all I have. If you're gonna watch Code Black, don't expect it to be good. But that's my advice. Bye.